Welcome to Face with me, Hamid Emadi, as I will be talking to one of the best pilots in Iran and perhaps in the world. This is the Tehran Mehrabad International Airport, and I'll be talking to Captain Mortazazadeh. Don't miss this Face, as I will show you something you've rarely seen. I've got the security clearance, and I'm going inside the cockpit.
Good afternoon, Mr. Emadi. Welcome on board our aircraft.
Captain Mortazazadeh, thank you very much for joining Press TV's Face. My first question to you. The Malaysian airliner has gone missing. As a pilot who's been in this business for many years, what does that tell you? How can a plane be missing?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your interview also. With these technologies that we have these days, and what has been said during the past 1 month almost, missing is something which is not understandable to any person which has been working in this industry. So the word missing doesn't mean anything to us.
Well, they said that the transponder went off. Could you please show me what is this, how this transponder works, and does anybody do that, switching it off?
Well, if you look here, this part is called the transponder. And transponder, as the word shows, means something that receives radar interrogation, encodes and sends it back to the radar, so that the radar can identify exactly which airplane is under the radar control now. Usually, ATC control, which is air traffic control system of any country, which is an integrated part in the whole world, because they are joined together. Step by step, they are joined together. They specify a certain code for any aircraft. This code is shown here. It is 2000. Usually 2000 is set after the flight is finished on all aircraft. And once the ATC specifies a certain code, the pilot would set this code here so that all interrogations are encoded with this code and sent back. As you can see here is 2000. I will change it now to 1702. Now the code is 1702. But this code is not activated because the system is on standby mode now. If you put it on transponder, then this transponder is working now with this code and is sending signals to ATC. The ATC picks up these signals and knows that this signal is coming from this aircraft, which has been specified by ATC control to set this code. And they are usually encoded with other coding systems like the aircraft altitude and some other items, and they are sent back to ATC. So this part is called the transponder, and no pilot is going to turn off this transponder during the flight, because if he does it, then the aircraft will have the interrogation on the radar scope, but no information is set there. Apart from that, they can see the aircraft, but no code can be seen there.
So if this transponder over here, if the pilot switches the transponder to this off mode, it cannot be detected?
Well, if I put it to, I can only put it on standby mode. This system which shows off, it is altitude reporting. If I put it here now, the aircraft is not responding to its altitude. The radar cannot understand what altitude the aircraft has.
Is it sending signals?
Yes, the signals are sent there, but no altitude reporting. But it's only a standby. You cannot turn off this transponder. So, of course, there are certain sets, number 1 and number 2, and the pilot can switch different sets. Sometimes we have problem with one set, so we switch to the other set, and the ATC usually requests of, okay, check your transponder, and so we switch to other systems, and also altitude reporting and transponder number 1, transponder number 2. As for altitude reporting, we can put it on number 1 so that the information is taken from number 1, or put it in number 2 and the information is taken from number 2. But this code and this system are still sent to the aircraft unless I put it on a standby mode. If I put it on a standby mode, it's almost off mode for this one. But still, the radar is able to pick the aircraft, but no information is set to radar. It's only set as a target. It's just a simple target. Yeah. This simple target is shown as only a target, and they cannot receive any information. But it can be seen on the radar. Nothing is missing from the radar.
You're a passenger plane pilot. Would a passenger plane pilot do that?
Never, never. Because we need this information to be sent to the radar. They should know all this information. Anytime we do that, certain penalties are taken towards us. Maybe they limit our altitude. We cannot fly at a certain levels. Maybe we have to clear some area because other airplanes are put into danger. So they are controlling us all the time. Anytime anything happens to this transponder, immediately the ATC asks us to check our transponder. So we usually change the set. We go to number 1 or we go to number 2.
So what are other possibilities? For instance, if this pilot on this Malaysian airline did not switch it to this off mode or standby mode, the transponder I'm talking about, still radars have not detected that huge, gigantic airplane. How did that happen?
Well, it's impossible for what we are saying is that because, you know, as a person who is involved in this business, what they are saying is something unacceptable to us. These are the problems that we have. No aircraft like that can be missing from the radar. So as you started with the word missing and what has been said during the past 1 month, this missing is something unacceptable to us.
You don't buy their argument?
No, we don't.
So technically speaking, it's not possible for a plane to go missing like that?
Well, even we are talking about ATC control radars. Even if the aircraft is missing from ATC control radars, still military radars, which are a integrated defense system of any country, they can pick up all targets, you know. No target can be missing from those radars. So how can they say that this airplane has been missing from the radar?
One scenario that they talked about was that the pilot was going to commit suicide. Just hypothetically speaking, if a pilot wants to commit suicide, would they do that? Is this something that they would take as an option?
If someone wants to commit suicide, he can do anything, and it doesn't matter to him if they understand or not. So if he wants to commit suicide, he's going to commit suicide. And everybody knows that this aircraft has crashed, and
he doesn't need to do that, to do all these technical things. You know, commit suicide, wants to commit suicide, will commit suicide.
Why should he do this, you know? There's no need doing this. He is going to commit suicide, and the aircraft is going to crash, and he has done his job.
So, Captain, what happened, you know, that you say that this is technically not possible? So what do you think has happened here?
Well, I think if they start giving us information about what happened, then these information that is coming to us, these information are non-acceptable. If we start receiving acceptable information, we can put bits of this puzzle together and then solve it. It is solvable. But if we receive correct puzzle parts, which is missing now.
So basically what you're saying is that because technically speaking, it's not possible for a plane to go missing like that, there must be something else. Something that they are holding from public. Some information. Something that if we know it, if experts know it, they can solve this puzzle. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. You know, it's one side is the public and the other side is the industry. Industry usually works with certain formulas and certain scientific ways of expressions. For public, you can say anything. For us, as the people who work in the industry, these information are unacceptable. And unfortunately, this is the case. We are not receiving the correct information.
So why are they doing that? Why are they not telling us the correct information?
They should not. You should not ask us. You should ask other politicians or anything which is in relation.
So you believe that there are some political aspects to this story of the missing plane?
It could be. It could be very much like that.
Now they're talking about this black box. They're talking about sonic pings being detected from the bottom of the ocean. If it's related to this aircraft.
Well, these sonic peaks that they are talking about, in general it's called a black box, but it's not black, it's orange, and later on we will see that it's not that color. These parts of the aircraft, they are dedicated to store certain information so that if anything happens, if any accident or incidents happen, they can be recovered, and then they would know exactly what has happened to the aircraft. So if they recover it and it belongs to this aircraft, it's something else. But we were talking about ELT. ELT is before these things. If anything happens to the aircraft, if aircraft crashes or anything happens, immediately all the signals are picked up by satellites. And sometimes we have had crashes with even single engine, a very small aircraft. And we have been informed by satellite immediately, say about 15 minutes later. 20 minutes after the crash, we have been informed that one aircraft has crashed here. So how can a huge airplane like that crash and no satellite picks anything before going to sonic things that is coming from the bottom of the ocean? These are the bits of information. Technically, doesn't sound to us anything, you know. These are the problems that we are having to solve this puzzle.
Captain, I think it's better for us to go and see one of those black boxes, see how it works, and if a plane crashes, anything like that happens to a plane, how search and rescue teams can find the plane. This is an electronic shop, and these are black boxes. As you see, they're not black, they're orange. And let me see how heavy they are. Not that heavy, maybe 10, 12 kilos. And they're small. These devices are supposed to record each and every problem or each and everything that happens during a crash or anything else that happens to the airplane. I'll talk to the captain, and we'll see how these things work. Okay, Captain, the black boxes, voice recorders, how do they work? And in case there is a plane crash, how will they operate?
Well, as you can see, black box is not black box at all. They are in fact in orange color in order to be detectable after any crash. So if anything happens, it doesn't matter what happens. At all times, a lot of parameters are recorded and kept in these systems that you can see, which I explained one by one. This part is called a flight recorder, or as we call it, flight data recorder.
This is the black box.
It's a combination of this one and this one, which I explained. This is cockpit voice recorder, and this is flight data recorder. Flight data recorder records and maintains, these are the new systems. They almost maintain 250 parameters regarding the aircraft. Condition of engine, flight level, aircraft speed, accelerating, decelerating, a lot of items they maintain here. Usually, if anything happens after the crash, when they are detected, they will be taken to certain laboratories, and all this information will be taken out, and we will realize what has happened during the last parts of the flights. So this is called flight data recorder, as is installed in the aircraft. It's usually installed at the back of the aircraft, because usually when the aircraft crashes, the least damage is done to the tail part of the aircraft. So it's usually kept right at the end, maybe at the aft cargo. In most aircraft, they are kept at the aft cargo to the right side, as it is. But these one we have opened here for you in the shop. All the information which I said is transmitted into this part. As you can touch it, it is very hard, and usually the information, even after the crash, is detectable from this part. This is the where we have opened the top, and as you can see, these are the tapes, and these information, this part is called cockpit voice recorder. Cockpit voice recorder means that any spoken words where one can hear, or even the faintest one, the smallest one, can be recorded on this system, and it is maintained for 30 minutes. That is the last 30 minutes, whatever has been said. It's like a round tape. So At all times, you have half an hour of whatever is said in the cockpit. The new ones for these aircraft, the aircraft which is said is missing, it's a 2 hours type.
2 hours type?
Yes, that means the last 2 hours can be maintained. Whatever has been said in the cockpit.
Well, just the pilot and the co-pilot, or no? If there's any commotion, anything that goes wrong in the cockpit in terms of any sounds, any voices, anybody coming in, wanting to do something, it records everything, huh?
Yes, it is said voice record.
For half an hour. These ones are for half an hour.
For half an hour for a small aircraft, yes. Those big aircraft, they have 2 hours time.
2 hours time.
So you can have all the spoken words and all the spoken sounds. It's in fact cockpit sound recorder instead of voice recorder. And this is what is in the cockpit. This is the microphone. And these are the system that shows if it is working. This is the test, usually the pilot's test. And they can also erase whatever has been said for their privacy. This one can be deleted by the pilot after the end of the flight.
So this voice recorder, if the flight ends, the plane lands, and the pilot wants to get rid of whatever it was recorded, he can easily do that.
Yes, he can do that after the flight.
So that doesn't help with the investigation if anything happens?
Well, if anything happens, the pilot is not allowed to do it. If he does it, he is going to be interrogated by certain parts in the country. So if anything happens, we have to keep it. We have to maintain it. So there is a circuit breaker. We usually pull the circuit breaker to maintain the information so that we can defend ourselves and say what has happened. Because mostly they are used for the pilots to show that they are not to blame for things that have happened. But anyway, after any accident or incident, they can be recovered. This is the new one, and this is the old one. So anyway, all the information is kept for half an hour in this system and maintained in these 2 parts that you can see through this system in the cockpit, which is located usually to the overhead side of the pilot. And they can record all the voices. The last, but not the least one is...
Captain, before going to this thing, and I'm very much interested in this particular device, and I know a lot of viewers will be definitely very much interested in this. The black box, or the orange box as we see it right now, if it goes missing, if the plane crashes and the black box goes missing, how can it be recovered? How can it be detected?
Well, usually, as I said, it is due to the color that they can be. But sometimes in certain systems there are batteries, especially when you are flying overhead waters. When they go underwater, they send signals so that they can also be recovered.
This sends signals as well. It tells people that up here, come here.
It does, but for a certain time, it's not that much that they can be recorded. If aircraft crashes, there is this part called ELB, which has a very small battery, and it can transmit signals, which is at a very low range. It's called local, for a very low range, and usually these ones are for 3 days. For 3 days, they can send signals.
For 3 days.
For 3 days.
So the 777, it might have a different system. That the batteries work
yes,
for
it might have a different.
Days or
yes, you are right.
More than 30 days.
But still, it is limited. They say that they are receiving signals from under bottom of the ocean, around 4 kilometers, 4,000 meters. So these don't have that strong battery to send signals this much. So they are arranged in a way so that they can be detected at it. The last one, but the least one, is this one. This is called ELT, Emergency Locator Transmitter. It is usually installed, 2 of them are installed, one at the back of the aircraft and one in the front of the aircraft, so that if the aircraft crashes, immediately they are separated from the aircraft and dropped anywhere in the sea or on the land. But as soon as they receive the shock, which we call it around 5G, 5 times of the weight, it starts sending signals. These signals immediately are depicted by all satellites around. And the information contained in this one, including aircraft type, registration, and a lot of information is sent to satellite. Even the small aircraft have, the smaller ones of course, which immediately after the crash, they are depicted by satellites, and immediately the companies or the certain authorities are informed about the crash.
So these get activated upon impact, upon the crash?
They do. They do.
So what happened? Malaysian airline, people say it crashed. So these things didn't work. I can't understand that.
It is exactly what we say. Had it crashed, it should have started immediately, and they would have realized that this aircraft has crashed. Maybe they cannot find the place where it exactly is, but they can say that, okay, this aircraft has crashed, because the signal immediately goes to the satellite and you realize that your aircraft has crashed.
This goes to the signal goes to the satellite, doesn't go to the ships and to the vessels, nearby vessels. But they said that there were ships, Chinese, Australian, and they have picked the ping and the signal from the bottom of the ocean. How does that work? If it communicates with the satellite, do you think the satellite didn't get the communication or something else? There might be something else to this thing.
There is one frequency. It is called emergency frequency. The frequency is 121.5. This frequency is usually monitored by all flights, during the flights, ships and satellites. So this frequency can be depicted by ships, they can be depicted by aircraft that are flying around. Sometimes the pilot touches a button inadvertently and it starts sending signals. And immediately we pick up the signal and inform the ATC. And they inform the relevant company and they switch it off.
So it's very sensitive.
It is very sensitive, and it can be depicted by any radio which is set to that frequency, 121.5.
So how does that explain the Malaysian airline crash?
Well, this is the question that we also have. Had it crashed, we should have received this signal immediately. Not after 1 month they say that we are receiving some signal from the bottom of the ocean. So this is our question also.
Captain, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.